You are looking live. How are we doing tonight? It's kind of hanging out. Welcome in to the Wagon Wheel, ladies and gentlemen, where tonight I sit here at the bar, look up and got a TV and going to watch some football. Looking forward to it. How are we doing tonight? Good evening. It's been a while since you and I have done this. So I figure, I don't know how long. Sit back, relax, and just chat, shall we? Got playoff football coming up. Going to watch a little bit of that tonight. See if Tom Brady, if his career comes to an end this evening or if he continues on. Knocks off Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy and the crew for the Dallas Cowboys. Have that. And by the way, for those that are on YouTube, Twitch TV, and on the Bud Light live stream here in the restream and the Facebook, it's just you and I. Nothing over the air. It's just you and I tonight. That's it. Just kind of hanging out, enjoying ourselves, having a drink. Who do the Vikings play this weekend? Marty, kick to the crotch right out of the chute. Dynamite drop in. Like it. Like it a lot. By the way, and I'm going to say this because I have a lot of friends that live in the great city that is the Queen City of Cincinnati, and really to people all over. What in the absolute F is up with your hatred for Chris Collinsworth? It's like people in Dallas hating on Troy Aikman. What is it like people hating on Chris Collinsworth? There is nothing. Last night, I rewatched part of that game today, and I watched the vitriol coming from Cincinnati Bengal fans because Collinsworth isn't giving them enough praise. Your team was trailing to a backup quarterback at half. Shut up. Joe Burrow is fantastic. The offensive line is banged up. We all know that. Your secondary's banged up. Understand that. Eli Apple, the fact that he tracks down guys from behind, drags them to the ground, and then celebrates after giving up big passes, so be it. We all know that. You know what it is. But my God, when a broadcaster tells it like it is, and you're just mad because you feel he should be kissing your team's ass, that's on you. That's not on him. Africa to the Wagon Wheel. Really? Seriously? That is a long way to watch the program, but welcome in. Holy mackerel. Are the Lions now the team to beat in the NFC North next season? That's from our buddy Jim. I don't know if they're the team to beat, but there's certainly I still believe the Packers are a good football team. With you. They're but I think it's no really easy division to win for the Green Bay Packers. You know, I don't think it's that way. I believe that I still think that it goes through Minnesota. I think they've got a good young head coach, although I love Dan Campbell. By the way, tonight on the Manning cast, Dan Campbell is going to be with the Mannings in the second half. Now, if you were listening to the program a week or so ago, right before the Packers played the Lions, we had Dan Campbell doing an inspirational speech on before the game. Did you hear it? Dan Campbell was doing this this speech coming out of the game prior, and he was fired up and yelling and screaming. Tell me Dan Campbell, go back and find it. Tell me Dan Campbell doesn't sound like Chris Farley in The Man That Lived in a Van Down by the River on Saturday Night Live. This is a man that lived down by the river. As an inspirational speaker, he's freaking awesome. So pay attention to the Manning cast tonight coming up in the second half of the ballgame. Oh, that's a good cigar. Perdomo Champagne 10th anniversary. Short. Oh, really good cigar. Really good cigar. Scott says if the AFC Conference Championship game is at a neutral site, will that open the door for permanent conference championship games at neutral sites? I don't think so, because you give the incentive as not only the week off, but also, but you want some of these teams that fight for home field advantage to have home field advantage, not to fight for a neutral site. So suppose Kansas City gets beat this weekend. Then it comes down to, say Jacksonville and Buffalo. Well, Buffalo's earned the right to have the home game. So I don't think so. I don't think they would take that away. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be just a one-off. I just don't think that's going to happen. Good stuff. Hit us up. I know there's a bunch of people watching, as a matter of fact, all over, because the numbers continue to grow. Good to have you on tonight. Will this be Tom Brady's last game? Thoughts on that if Tom Brady gets beat tonight? I've got the Cowboys winning this one, only for the fact that I believe the Cowboys are a more talented team. But it really, the way that season ended for Dak Prescott and those guys, and him just kind of giving the ball away, man, I don't know if I have a lot of confidence in Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys, and such tonight. Dave says Green Bay would never host a neutral site championship. No, never would. Never. Green Bay is going to host home playoff games. That's it. I don't think unless they decided to build a new dome stadium in Green Bay, and even then it's going to be a stretch because of the amenities for the surrounding areas. I just don't know if they'd ever do it. You have to, and I've said this 1,000 times, you got to go to a Super Bowl. You got to go to a Super Bowl to understand the magnitude of a Super Bowl. The only thing I think the Packers would ever host is going to be the NFL draft. I think they'll get the draft, but I don't think they ever get a championship. Jim says you need some Buffalo Trace. It's funny. I've got some right over there at the bar, and I just ended up going with a Bud Light tonight. Ben Kenny. Ben, do you have fucking nothing to do but hang out with me all the time? That's awesome. Love it. Better hair, Brady or Aikman? I'll hang up and listen. Oh, my God. You'd have to go Brady, because he can go long or he goes high and tight. He does it many different ways. Aikman, he's got a funky head. Looks like he was hit with a rubber mallet. Ian, now there you go. We have not had a Golden Eagles question, I think, for a long time. I like the way that they're playing right now, to be honest with you. I really do. I like the way that they're playing. The fact that that's where top-ranked teams go to die right now. Teams in the top 10 go to the five-serve form and they end up getting beat. I mean, that's saying something. When you start talking about the tournament and then you look at recognizable wins, RPI rankings and such, and the tournament committee will look at that, they've got a hell of a season going right now. They got a hell of a season going right now. Ty says, what about the Badgers? I like the Badgers. You know what? It's funny because every year we count the Badgers out and you think, this is going to be a little bit of a down year, a rebuild year, and then they come on strong. Now, obviously, they got to get some injuries, but beyond that, Badgers are an impressive team. I like the fact that, you're going to have at least two teams locally in the tournament this year. How about that? Jerry says, Bucks win, pass heavy first half, wearing them down. Turn to the run, heavy in the second, on grass. Cowboys totally different on grass. That is true. But I think it's the fact that they've never beaten Tom Brady. They're not that great on grass. The way they ended down the stretch, there's a lot going against them. I know Mike McCarthy is a head coach. They get ready to play. He gets his team ready to play. I think, honestly, this comes down to whether or not Dak Prescott turns the ball over. If Dak Prescott plays like the Dak Prescott in the first few weeks of the season, then he's fine. If he continues to press and doesn't look good doing it and they don't, commit to the run and he's under pressure and trying to do too much, then Dak Prescott will do exactly what Dak Prescott does, and that's F this all up, and they'll be sitting at home, and then Jerry Jones will be telling us all week about how Mike McCarthy's not going to lose his job. I feel like Eli Manning right there when I took that sip. Like Peyton's going to look at me and go, "You drink too loud." Packed house down there in Tampa Bay. Like it. Got anything going on? Give us a shout. There was a couple of things I really specifically wanted to talk about. He lost at home to the Bucs first game. Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember. I thought, boy, the Bucs are starting out. This is fast. This is hot. Way to go. And am I taking calls? No, no calls tonight. Nobody answered phones tonight. It's just right here, right like this. This is it. Just us tonight. We're just kind of hanging. No phone calls, no BS. Just a cigar, a beer. Got the game on up here next to me. So if you're watching it at home, I'm watching it too. I didn't think to put like a camera on it or run the cable to it and then split the screen so we could watch it together because I really don't want to do a watch party for the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, I just figured we'd hang out tonight. Brewers make the playoffs this year. Marty, I like your optimism, but no. What have they done? What have they done? Grant Bills is here tonight. Holy shit, everybody's off, and they're still here tonight. Nice. No Jimmy Buffett decor down here. You can see the Harley sign in the back, the biker club stuff, the Christoph cigar sign with the girl on it behind me. You got the lights changing colors and stuff, and this is kind of it. This is the Wagon Wheel Bar. And named a while ago, Kristen and her friends came over one night and said, man, with the wagon wheels in the ceiling, this is really cool. They called it the Wagon Wheel, and thus Kristen gave me that wagon wheel sign for a Christmas gift, and that went right into the bar. And you can see there that the old Frisch's Big Boy, which it's Mark's Big Boy, it's whatever Big Boy you want to call it, but where I grew up, it was Frisch's. The Frisch's family had bought it. The Big Boy sign, which there's a Big Boy now in Germantown, Wisconsin. But yeah, it's wagon wheel stuff. Good stuff. What else do we got? What is your theory behind the Brewers canceling Fan Fest? Because I would say not a lot of excitement. I mean, right now it's not Fan Fest, it's Bitch Fest. Let's be honest. What money have they spent? They sealed up some guys arbitration-wise, and they don't want the owner to come in there and get booed off the stage. There's a lot of people pissed off. I talked about this earlier today. How do you lowball Corbin Burns? Seriously. How do you do that? I understand the Brewers, and I appreciate, go back a couple of years coming out of COVID. The Brewers, I thought, after the COVID season, I thought they were really going to cut payroll, and they didn't. They went out and got Colton Wong. They got, a host of other guys, and some did, some didn't pan out. Okay, that's great, but they spent money. I thought they'd cut budgets, and they didn't. And then they came back the next year, and they spent money in the offseason. And obviously, Christian Yelich and such, they're paying that big contract too, so they have spent money, But now you're right there, and you feel like you finally, how long have you and I been complaining and wanting and desiring homegrown pitching? And then they get it, and you keep it together, and you do a little bit for it here and there instead of just kind of going for it when it's really, really good. And then you lowball it, and you pretty much told all the fans, just like you told all the fans with the Josh Hader deal. Yeah, it's all about the money. It's not about whether we grow homegrown guys or not. We just want to hang on to them as long as we can, get them for as cheap as we can, and then get rid of them. And it's a sad statement. And Craig says the Brewers are happy to be average. They would like to be in the hunt for the postseason, but will they do the extra 2 or 3 or 4 things to actually go for it? This year was really an ugly character move for Mark Antanasio. because it was clearly all about the money. It was clearly all about. It wasn't about getting better. It wasn't about, making this team a serious contender. It was about, hey, we're going to get rid of everybody. Now you're lowballing your Cy Young Award winner. Who does that? Brian, you're from Ohio, correct? Are you a fan of any sports teams from there or all Wisconsin? No, you know what? I grew up a Packers fan. My mom and dad were huge Bart Starr fans. I grew up actually a Marquette fan too because Marquette had Al McGuire. My mom loved Al McGuire. So I was very familiar, and I grew up watching AHL hockey with the Cincinnati Cyclones and Milwaukee Admirals. I knew them real well. The Brewers then went from the American League into the National League, and they became in the same league as the Cincinnati Reds. I was a big fan of the Cincinnati Reds during the Big Red Machine and during their wire-to-wire run in 1989, 1990. I grew up a Bengals fan as well. I couldn't stand Cleveland, couldn't stand Pittsburgh. Grew up in that rivalry, obviously. Really liked Ken Anderson, and then they started to turn things around with Max Montoya, Anthony Munoz. Remember when they brought in Big Pete Johnson? Pete Johnson was a running back, and my God, he was a train. And then the next time they went to a Super Bowl, it was with Ickey Woods and the Ickey Shuffle, and Chris Collinsworth came in, and Collinsworth was doing all this wild and crazy stuff where he was down at River Downs racetrack, and he was racing. He was so fast. He was racing horses. Nobody could believe he was that fast. And he raced a horse and won. And, they really had some good football, and so it was somewhat exciting. But also, I lived through a lot of bad football. David Klingler, Kajana Carter, Achilles Smith, just some bad football, tight-ass football out of Mike Brown. Paul Brown was a football guy. He had his philosophies and his beliefs, but he was a football guy. Mike Brown just inherited a football team, thought he was brilliant, wasn't, just nickel and dime that thing to death, which is going to be interesting because they have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, a couple of offensive linemen. They got a bunch of guys coming up on contracts, and they're going to have to spend a ton of money to keep. What is Joe Burrow going to demand in a contract, in salary? Think about that. So that's going to be happening. So anyway, I was a fan. I really liked Bob Huggins when he was at the University of Cincinnati. I loved Pete Gillen when he was at Xavier University. But it was a hotbed there. When it came to sports, you go back to, you had before Calipari, you had Tubby Smith, who was the head coach at Kentucky. Bobby Knight was still coaching in Indiana years and years prior. My dad grew up a Bobby Knight fan. You had University of Miami of Ohio. That's where Ben Roethlisberger went, and that was not far from Cincinnati. You had the Dayton Flyers, which were always exciting. Ohio State was only 119 miles up the highway, so you had that. There was still a lot of Notre Dame fans in that area, so it was a hotbed of sports talk in that area. Louisville, Rick Pitino, when he went to Louisville, remember Rick Pitino prior to being in Louisville was at Kentucky, and he won a national title with Kentucky when I worked at 700 WOW in Cincinnati. He actually brought the trophy, the NCAA trophy, into the studio, which was really, really cool. And when I grew up there, it was givable to and play, and Chris Collinsworth work with at W years later, which was really, really cool. So, 87, or I shouldn't say 877. I'm not giving out a phone number. Not doing that. They got some stars at the game tonight. Hulk Hogan, Tom Cruise. They had Warren Sapp on the field a little bit earlier. Warren Sapp gave his head a mohawk. He looks more like Mr. T. He's got that Mr. T haircut, so to speak. Robert, I agree with you, by the way. They need to sign Corbin Burns. Need to sign Burns and make him happy. And not to mention the fact that otherwise you're telling your fan base, which you already have, but basically it's all about the money and we're not going to be competitive. Craig says, give us your private number. It doesn't attach. Oh, I guess it does. I guess I could. It doesn't. I don't have it set up, though. It doesn't attach to the Roadcaster, or at least I don't have it attached to the Roadcaster at this point. So, Phil says, one thing the Brewers need before spring training is bullpen help, bullpen depth. I'd love to say hitting. You can never not have enough hitting, but you also need some bullpen health. help, in my opinion. Got a light. Got to light back up. Damn near set myself on fire. How about that? Wouldn't that have been embarrassing, huh? There we go. Good. All right, what else? What else you got tonight? I don't want to do this for more than, say, 15, 20, 30 minutes, something like that. We've already been here for about 20, 25 minutes. So, Phil says, I was going to say third base. Third base would be good, too. I don't know how high that is on my list, but third base would be good, too. Jim says, I think the Brewers are going to open our eyes. They got talent in the youngsters. That will surprise. You know what? I hope. I just keep thinking of the time when they kept talking about a young guy that could hit. And he came up and he hit the hell out of the baseball. And everybody was excited, like, oh, God, just give this guy a starting job. It's done. Done deal. And then Keston Hiura couldn't find his way out of a paper bag, man. Not for a long time. So I don't rely on anybody that hasn't played a season, at least a season or two in the majors, as a go-to guy. There's very few of those that come up and just light it up right away and really are major contributors. And you need that right now as a Brewers fan. Matt says start bench cut Macanudo, Rocky Patel, Davidoff. I like them all. Rocky Patel I really like. I like Macanudos. The Macanudos. And I also am a big fan of Monte Cristo. I'm a big fan of Perdomo. With the Macanudo M, the espresso, that is a really good cigar. A really good cigar. Eric says, does McCarthy get his walking papers if Dallas loses tonight? Depends on how they lose. If they lose in ugly fashion, then probably. But let's say they lose with Dak just being stupid. Does Dak cost Mike McCarthy his job? Or the defense letting them down? Now, here's the question I have for you. Think about this for a minute. If Mike McCarthy didn't get credit all season long for calling the plays, he was just there as a head coach, getting his team ready, game manager, that and that. Because the defense was solid, and he didn't get any credit for that. It's the defensive coordinator. The offense, boy, I tell you what, the offense is just cranking. It's not Mike McCarthy's offensive coordinator. So if it's the coordinators getting all the credit, then why does Mike McCarthy take all the blame? Right? I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's if you love to hate somebody, you'll find a reason to hate them, and you'll give credit to anybody else but them. So when they were winning games without Dak Prescott, did anybody give Mike McCarthy credit? So it is what it is. Craig says Rodgers pulls a Favre and retires, gets his release, and goes to Las Vegas. He'll have to pay back the money, but his contract with LV will make up for it. I don't think he would do that. There's some things you don't do that are just a bad look, and that would be one of them. Here's the reason why. Because Rodgers would he complained about all the things that he wanted, all the ways he wanted to be treated, all the ways he wanted to be included, and they did all of that. And now he turned around and basically, shortchanged the franchise that said, you're right, we'll give you everything you want. And then you do that on top of it? I don't think he'd do that. That'd be just such an incredibly bad look for him. And for a guy that cares about legacy, cares about somewhat image and such, I don't see it. Adam says there are cheap-ass owner T-shirts with Mark Antanasio's face on them. I saw that. Somebody had posted it on my Twitter page. If you want to follow me on Twitter and see it, it's at Bill_Michaels. Somebody had posted that on Twitter today. I'll be honest with you. I had not seen that until today. but it's not it's Mark Antanasio. I think until this season was really looked at as a really good, supportive, let's go for it, I want to win owner. And this year, the whole thing with Hader flipped the organization and flipped its public appearance, its persona, if you will. Um, Matt says, will you tune into the halftime space on Twitter that is going to be run by Grant Bills and Ben? I didn't know they were doing it. Ben didn't tell me. Ben didn't tell me. Tom says, if Rodgers does go somewhere else, he might have to show up to camps. I think he shows up to camps regardless. Tom says, been to Lambeau about a dozen times for a dozen games. Some of the best visiting fans to party with are the Giants fans. That was my biggest reason to root for the Giants yesterday, aside from it being against the rival Vikings. Who am I rooting for? I like the Giants. I like Dable. I really like Doug Peterson. We've kind of adopted him. Obviously, I'm a little partial to all my buddies in Cincinnati. I'm kind of rooting for Tom Brady tonight. My girlfriend Kristen grew up a Patriots fan, and she goes back to the Steve Grogan days. So it's not like she's always been riding the bandwagon, so to speak. But she's really a hardcore Patriots fan, a Brady fan. So, I got some rooting interest there. I find myself going in that direction. Tom from Las Vegas, out at a trade show. Good man. Paul, are you in Delavan? Nope. I am in. This bar is in my house. This is the Wagon Wheel in my house. I can't show you like behind the bar. The camera is actually behind the bar. But this is actually the bar in my house. This is where we had the Christmas party. We had about 75 people down here and cigar smokers and everything. It was pretty cool. What else do we have? Any live shows coming to Manitowoc or anything close? No, right now we don't. But we were talking about doing something in Green Bay. We're trying to put something together. So if we do, I will for sure post it and let you know, Eric. Appreciate it. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to stay or leave Green Bay? I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back for a couple of reasons. One, I think like the obvious is 50, 60 million bucks. I also think that you can't go out the way he's gone out over the last 3 seasons, losing on your home field and not playing your best football. I think there's a legacy here, and I think Mark Murphy wants to go out with another win. Aaron Rodgers wants to go out with another win. I think they do everything they can to get that in the next year or so. But I think there's only maybe 2 years left in this whole deal, unless they decide to extend him out. And he says he wants to play until he's 42 or 43. Then maybe go in that direction. David says Pella windows. Not down here in the Wagon Wheel. This is subground. So we got little small windows but they're not Pellas. They're just little small windows down here, just enough to let some air in. That's it. Kevin says a jet sweep to Lazard in the 4th and a nose hair. Not innovative. Not innovative at all. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in the press box. Mike Clemens is off to my right, which is your left on the TV here. And I've got my binoculars firmly on Aaron Rodgers. I'm watching. I'm like, okay, here we go. They're not going to run it. They're not going to run it. They're not going to run it. They're trying to run. Oh, my God, they're running it. Oh, my God. Oh, to Lazard. Are you kidding me? What the fuck was that? That was my reaction. So there you go. Are the Brewers going to play Terang at second base? Well, they paid Wong. Some guys are going to get 450. Some guys are going to get 550. But everybody's going to get their at-bats. And so he didn't worry about it a whole lot. There was no promises made. It's, hey, whoever ends up playing the best. So I'm good with not saying who's doing what, when, and where if you've got multiple talents at one position. Damn, this thing keeps going out. Right? Craig says it was the slowest developing play ever. It was terrible. It was like they didn't even know they were running it. You know? Seriously. DJR 1029, never high on many of the prospects the Brewers have. Who should they have kept that they traded? Hader. Enough said. You know, if you want to be a consistent big league team and compete, you keep the guys that can make money because they're good. Guys make more money when they're that good. And I get it for paying mediocre guys ridiculous amount of money. Understand that. But good guys, good players, you pay good players. It's like a quarterback in the National Football League. You got a good one, you pay him. You got good pitchers, you pay him. It's pitching. That's it. And if you can find yourself a hitter or two along the way, and I just saw Christian Yelich, he's out snowmobiling. I knew he was doing some workouts like in his driveway and such. I watched him on some of that stuff. So and he looked a little thicker, like he actually put on a little bit of muscle. So I'm kind of excited to see how he comes into camp this year. What else you got? Nothing else? Have an email? Anything? Anything else we want to get into before we call it a night? We're 32 minutes into this thing. I didn't even realize it. Kudos to all of you. We got a good amount of people hanging out today. 7:57 left to go in the first quarter. Scoreless down in Tampa Bay. Is that it? Corey Ray? Nope. What was the prediction for the Super Bowl? My prediction at the beginning of the season, I think Ben Kenny, has it written down, but I said Buffalo Bills. I think I said Buffalo Bills and Packers. Honestly, I think I said Bills and Packers or Bills and Eagles, one of the two. I thought that there would be the Packers, the Cowboys. I didn't think LA would be as good, and I never take the team that won, so I didn't think LA would be there. I thought San Francisco would be good, but I wasn't quite sure how they'd be with Trey Lance. Who knew Brock Purdy would turn into what he is? But I think that's what I said was, and I'm just trying to be honest. I think I said Bills and Packers with possibly Bills and Eagles. And if I would have taken the second guess, I was really impressed with the fact that Cincinnati didn't falter. Cincinnati, most teams that lose the Super Bowl don't even make it back to the postseason the next year. Cincinnati did. Give them kudos. And they almost lost that game, that wild card game, but it is what it is. Nick says, glad the Vikings lost. Jim says, watching with the Mannings and Coach Prime. I knew he was going to be on in the first half. Dan Campbell coming out in the second half. That'll be good. Craig says, you ever watch Tom Grossi YouTube videos? He does on the NFL. He did the Viking season, which was hilarious. I have seen some of those, yeah. And he's really good. It's entertaining. We're Tim Allen, always on the crew. He won Milwaukee base, so I think he's doing some stuff with the game, which is 97.3 out of Milwaukee. We're on AM 920 in Milwaukee. Oh, touchdown. Dak Prescott to Schultz, and I said Schultz is going to be a free agent at the end of this year. That's the guy I'd love to see come to Green Bay. He's not going to cost you a ton, but Schultz is a hell of a tight end. They utilize him really well down in Dallas. I would love to see Dalton Schultz come to Green Bay. He'd be a hell of an upgrade at the tight end position. Big time. Jim says, will Barry Alvarez take over for Murphy? No. I think they've got somebody in-house. I think, who will take over. And then they missed the extra point. Watch them lose by a point. Will that be McCarthy's fault? No. because your kicker blew it. Same thing last night with McPherson when he missed that extra point. Cincinnati ultimately got it back with a 2-point conversion, but 6-0 right now. Cowboys over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 6:28 left to go in the first quarter. There you go. So that's kind of it. If there's anything else you got, bring it here in the last minute or so. Hey, a reminder for those of you that are watching, we're going to be in Grafton coming up on Friday the 27th. Friday the 27th, we're going to be at the Distillery in Grafton. Maybe we'll do, we're going to give away, God damn it. I wanted to bring it down. I got a 55-inch big screen TV. It's here at the house. We're giving that thing away that day, only that day for only people registering that day. You got to do it in person. So come on out. We're only going to be on the air out there. We'll be on the air for the full 4 hours of the show from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. local time. But we'll be on the air to where you can come in and watch the show from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Doors out there open up at 11. We'll be on from 10 to 2. You come on out for a lunch. Maybe our buddy Tim, who's the GM over there, Mallory, who also runs the place, going to be hanging out with us. They're going to recommend some whiskeys and such. We're going to have a good time. We're going to preview the AFC and NFC championship games. But we are going to give away that day. You can walk out with it, a big screen TV, and you can have it home installed in your house, ready to go for the NFC and the AFC championship games and for the Super Bowl. So come on out to the Distillery in Grafton, coming up on Friday, January 27th. Wednesday night, we're going to be down at Root River, Root River Center at the bowling alley down in Franklin. That's coming up on Rawson. That's coming up on Wednesday night. And both of them are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Brady hasn't completed a pass yet. Yeah, I kind of was looking at some of the statistics. It's terrible. How's the knee feeling? My knee is doing okay. I had the surgery years ago. The knee is doing good. The lower back is okay. But between my back and the neck and all that kind of stuff, I've had a hell of a year. So I'm just getting ready to start an entirely new program, basically called Health in a Box from NewMail. I was just talking to him today about it. We're going to start that hopefully in the next week or so. If not, at the latest, it'll be right after Super Bowl. But Kristen and I are both going to do it because we both want to get into shape. Because she's much better shape than I am. But we both want to do it. We both want to lose some weight. We both want to feel fit, so we're both going to do it. We'll do some before and after pictures and stuff like that. Matt says, love the Distillery. Distillery's a great place. The one at Ridgefield, everybody knows. They got a really good whiskey club, too. Eric, how's the golf game? I went to Lux Golf in Franklin and hit, I don't know, 40, 50 drives the other day. And not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. I got a few good swings in. I'm one of those guys where it's like, you know what? I get outside, just start smacking it around, and my game just kind of comes to me. And if I really worked on it and played a lot, I'd probably get pretty good. I just don't play enough. And the one thing that I learned years ago, I'll be real honest with you. I used to play in a ton of scrambles. I mean, a ton of charity events. And I love the charity events, don't get me wrong. But when I went from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., because my hours changed, I didn't have as much time. And I got my boat. I had the motorcycle. I had the RV. I had all these things going on, and I just didn't have the time to play in the scrambles as much. And I started to really pick and choose some of the ones that I was involved in. And I was getting pissed that my game was suffering. It was just so bad. And I'd play, my buddies would all come up and we'd all go golfing. And, it's kind of like after 9 holes, you're either really good and you want to keep going because you're, almost on par to set your record, or at 9 holes, you're like, I suck so bad today. I just want to quit at 9. I just need to leave. It wasn't worth the aggravation. And I realized there were so many things in my life that weren't as aggravating. So that's kind of what I started doing. But I still love to golf. I still love to go play. Still love to smoke a cigar. I still love to just enjoy it and go out and enjoy with friends. Kristen took it up. Her and I'll go out, on a Sunday morning and beat it around a little bit. So we have a good time, but it's not, I don't take it as serious as I used to, Matt says, not a fan of Lux, dead golf balls in short range. That's okay, though. you still got a chance to go out and swing it. You figure if you're hitting 240, 250 at Lux, you're hitting 310 on a fairway somewhere else, you know? And it still creates the same spin. You can still slice it and hook it, and you can still do certain things. But I love it because it just allows you to get swings in. Not to mention they serve beer right to you right in the bays. Tom says, I told my wife years ago, if I ever take up golf or bowling seriously, it's time to quit. Just go have some fun and relax. We were out at Circle B bowling alleys. I think that's in Grafton, actually, on Friday night. They had their disco bowling or whatever it was. They turn all the lights out and turn on all the lasers and discos and stuff. That was kind of fun. Then again, we were drinking heavily. There you go. All right. Tom Brady driving. He's got 2nd and 10 from just inside his own 40. You and I have had a pretty good night. There's a rifle for a first down. You and I have had a good night. All of my stuff brought to you by Bud Light. Always appreciate them. So we are going to talk again tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time, right here or on the airwaves on many of your local radio stations, on the app as well. You can download the app at WOZN, the Zone Madison. You can do that. You can find us in many different facets. But I always appreciate it when we do these, and we just kind of get together on a weeknight, sit down here in the wagon wheel, and kind of enjoy ourselves, you know? It's always fun. It's always a good time, and it's always just differing opinions. The next time we do this, we're going to do something – we'll do something maybe even non-sports related, you know? Maybe what we'll do is just stories of stupidity, or, you know, we'll just do a night of whatever the topic happens to be. We'll pick 5 topics and we'll do a couple of them, you know? So that'd be kind of cool. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do it soon. Who knows? Maybe I have nothing to do tomorrow night. See what happens. So until then, it is always a pleasure. Always great to hang out with you. Live here at the Wagon Wheel on a Monday night football. I love having the conversations with all of you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and hanging out, just joining me in the bar. So that's what we'll do. We'll have a theme night. So I'll post it on Facebook and I'll post it on Twitter. Okay. And we'll pick a couple of them and we'll do a night of just stories of that. All right. Sound good? All right. Until then,